You're 24 years old. You're 24 years old. You co-founded March for Our Lives after surviving the Parkland shooting to support gun control legislation. You've now co-founded Leaders We Deserve PAC.
Yes.
Tell us,
Correct.
What is that?
So it's basically the second step in our process. You know, we work with March for Our Lives to help elect better people to change gun laws, but our generation is getting old enough now that many of the young people that marched out with us, that protested with us and organized in 2018 in the largest student protest in American history, are now old enough to run for office. So my philosophy... My philosophy around that is if our government is not willing to change gun laws, then it's time to change who's in government.
Oh, shit.
And the way that we do that, Michael, is we help fund great generational leaders under the age of 30 for state legislature and under the age of 35 for Congress, people like Congressman Maxwell Frost and soon-to-be Congresswoman Sarah McBride in Delaware. And work with them on a day-to-day basis on everything that they need to be able to win.
You're tired of old people having a monopoly of power in our government, but isn't one of the solutions just waiting?
Well, funny enough, I think that that's our long-term plan, ultimately. You know, whenever people...
Guys, stick it out, they're gonna die.
Exactly. But it's about creating an intergenerational coalition in our government. So many of the greatest presidents we've ever had, whether that was Abraham Lincoln, he was 25 when he was first elected to the Illinois State House.
Wow.
LBJ was 28 when he was first elected to Congress. Joe Biden, and I know this is hard to believe for the younger people, was 29 when he was first elected. And those men went on to become so successful, I believe, because they started when they were so young, and it makes sense. If you start when you're young, you know how to get stuff done, and if people want to know more about what we do, they can go to leaderswedeserve.com.
So, silly question. Do young people want to run for office? Because it seems to me like, and I'm an old man, but it seems like every young person I see is just on TikTok.
Well, they are certainly on TikTok.
Yes.
But they're also engaging with all kinds of things on there because they all want to help create a better world, ultimately. We see young people over the past several years, ever since Donald Trump got elected, march for their lives in the form of March for Our Lives. We've seen them protest to fight for action on climate change and so much more. And ultimately, we've grown up hearing the mantra. Gen Z was taught alongside our ABCs, the mantra of run, hide, and fight. Right. I think it's time for our generation to repurpose that and realize we have a responsibility not to hide from the responsibility to protect the next generation so that they don't go through this. We have to fight to create that future. And if necessary, we need to run for office to make that future a reality.
But how...
By the way, Michael, my mom literally just called me when I was in makeup and she wanted me to say that she has a huge crush on John.
And this guy's got comedic timing, you know what I mean? I was just about to promote it some more, what you were doing. But
if anything, Michael, you guys know the importance of having young people join a show, for example.
That's true.
And John still comes on once a week, so your show is an intergenerational coalition.
That's true. And I honestly, John, I think, thinks the rest of us are all just the same person. So, but when you're looking for a Gen Zer, I know, it's like,
hey, I know you're different. I watch this show religiously.
Thank you. For real? Yeah, for real. Yeah, but so like, they're older people. They watch it on a cable channel. You watch it on your friend's YouTube or something. Yeah, great. Which is why nobody has any money. But when you're looking for a Gen Zer to run, you've said you're looking for someone that has the juice.
Yes.
What is the juice?
Great question.
Do I have the juice?
Well,
can I get some juice?
I think it's possible for anybody to get it, but I think that you especially, as somebody that does this work to help communicate the news to young people that so often are tired of hearing a cynical worldview constantly. The thing that I hate most is I think the greatest threat to our democracy is also one of the things that keeps me up the most at night, obviously, which is the hopelessness and apathy that so many young people have. That is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I don't think that you have that. So I think you do have the juice.
I got the juice.
But I think
I got the juice.
In terms of what does the juice really mean, though, 51% of what decides who we endorse as a candidate, it goes beyond our questionnaire and where they stand on the issues. That's 49% of it. 51% of it is why are you running for office?
Right.
We're not here just to support somebody because they want to have, congressman or woman next to their name, or they want to be a representative just for the sake of having power, for the sake of having power. We want to elect somebody because they want to use that power for good to help the people that don't have it right now, to help build a more perfect union. And part of how we do that is our candidates, they don't take corporate money. We don't take corporate money.
I was going to ask you about money.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's talk about money. So first of all, there's a great movie that came out in 1992 called Juice. You weren't even born yet. You weren't even a thought yet. Your parents probably hadn't even met yet.
No, they hadn't.
The very last scene, he goes, "You got the juice now, man." And he goes, "No." I want you just to think about that.
Yeah. I'll have to follow up on it.
Money.
Right.
So I go to Leaders We Deserve website.
Yeah.
And before I even really read the bio and see the video, it's like, yo, click here for some money.
It's true.
So that had me thinking, where is your money coming from?
So that's a great question.
You're welcome.
We have, when we started, it was a huge risk that we took because we were actually ready to launch on the day that we were supposed to launch. 12 hours before Donald Trump got indicted the first time.
Right.
And then we launched a week after that. And then he got indicted a week later.
4 indictments, yes, right.
But when we launched, we had no money, actually.
Right.
And what happened is we took a huge risk and we put it out there, and we raised over $1 million in our first 72 hours.
Jeez, crazy.
And what I am most proud of by far is right now in our first 14 months of existence, with just a small team of 4 people and great friends around us, we've been able to raise nearly $12 million to support young people. But that would not be possible without 130,000 individual donors who've donated on average far less than $1,000 to our organization. So no single person has control over us other than just making sure we do the right thing and our candidates do the right thing, which I think we need more of.
Once you take money from a corporation, it does change things, doesn't it?
Just a little bit.
It taints things a little bit.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that that's not what you got. Okay, great. Young men of your generation, I'm not putting this all on you, but I am curious. A lot of them are supporting Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What's all that about, dude?
It's a great question.
Yeah. And are you, and as Leaders We Deserve, supporting Democrats, progressives, conservatives, who?
So right now, excellent question.
I'm not just going to be your friend there. I'm going to push back a little bit.
No, you absolutely should. We support young progressives running for state legislature and Congress, and the main places that we look for them are people that have a background in social movements. People like Bryce Berry, who's running and will soon be the youngest person ever elected to the Georgia state legislature at the age of 23. He is a 7th grade algebra teacher.
Jesus.
And a former organizer with March for Our Lives. And then so that's really
also proving that if you know algebra, it still has no relevance in the modern day world. You got to become a state legislature. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's really what we're doing.
If you could talk or give advice to Kamala Harris, the one thing you could tell her to mobilize young Democratic voters, what would it be? And please tell me it has nothing to do with the Hogg podcast.
It does not.
Okay.
What I would say is listen to us and what we're saying.
I think I just showed how old I was. I didn't even say that right.
Right.
Yeah.
What I would say is listen to us and what these young people are saying and what we're going through. Right. And realizing, and I think to a large extent, she's done a pretty good job of that. But there's still a lot more work that we need to do to make sure that we're listening to these young people and giving them faith that their voice and their vote actually matters to somebody like the vice president or the ideally future president of the United States. And that they know that there's a lot more elections that affect you than just the presidency, this presidential election. An abortion ban is really going to be decided by your state legislature. And that's why most of the work we do isn't even in Congress right now. It's in state legislatures to help put up a fight against the radical abortion bans. Where just earlier today, that's why this year we've been investing. The state that we've actually invested the most in this year is Texas, where we spent over $1.5 million.
Wow.
And the reason for that is we know as Texas grows, and when we do flip Texas, because I believe that Texas, like Florida, is not a red state. It is a gerrymandered and voter-suppressed state.
Okay.
Right? If we flip Texas, we could have a future where we don't even need to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin to win the presidency, because all you need is Texas in that scenario with the key typical Democratic strongholds. And we're not investing for one cycle with our PAC. We're investing with time in the market of change, if you will, where we know that we have the greatest advantage on our side that anybody can have in politics, that none of these corporations, not even people like the Koch brothers, can buy more of, which is the fact that we're going to outlive most of the people who are against us.
Right. It's a good point. When we get our ballots, we're always very familiar with the presidency, but there's so many other people on the ballot.
There are.
And it would be nice if those names were as familiar as well.
Exactly.
You were a survivor of the Parkland shooting in 2018. Since then, depending on how you define a mass shooting, there's been 54 more mass shootings in this country. This could be very disheartening. Yet, when I see you, when I meet you, and when I see you on TV or anywhere, you seem resilient, you seem inspired, you don't seem disheartened. Tell me, what is the trick? How do you stay up? Because it can break you.
It can.
And you know that better than anybody.
It can. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, Michael, in that truly it's things like The Daily Show. And I mean,
good answer.
And no, but truly. And the reason why I say that is because there's so much negativity and vitriol in the media constantly. It's hard to watch it when it feels like you're being told constantly the world is on fire, but you still need to be informed. Right. Watching things like The Daily Show, and really a huge person that I have to thank for getting involved in politics in the first place is actually John Oliver.
Sure.
Because I started as a young debate student when I was in 9th grade. In high school, I started watching his show, and it gave me a completely different perspective into how hilariously corrupt a lot of these different state legislatures and politicians are, but how it doesn't have to be that way. And one thing that was really hard for me to learn, the hardest thing for me to learn after the shooting, and I think this goes for a lot of my classmates, was that it's okay to be happy,
right,
no matter what you've gone through.
Right.
And I say that. I say that because I have learned it is an absolute happiness, joy are not antithetical to progress, no matter how hard the issue is that you were working on. They're an essential part of it. And that was a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Because, thank you. Because after the shooting, there were so many people, naturally, what do you do in a photo if somebody takes it with you, no matter what you've gone through? You smile.
Right.
There were so many people that would make, right-wing people online that would make memes of us smiling, saying these are the faces that you make when you're standing on the bodies of your dead classmates.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
And that had a horrible effect on us.
Yeah.
And it really started to tear us apart. But I realized at a certain point that they actually need us not to be happy and believe that change isn't possible. Because I know from talking to people like Dolores Huerta, who I was at a protest with a few years ago, and I asked her, what is the most important thing that you can tell other young people, other activists, for them to know? And she said, the most important thing is that you have to make people believe that change is actually possible. If we didn't believe change was possible, after Parkland, if we didn't believe change was possible, if we didn't have, in some ways, the ignorance to believe change was possible in a Republican state legislature like Florida was, we wouldn't have been able to raise the age to 21 because we would have listened to those negative ad peddlers and pollsters and pundits.
It was a Republican governor, and you
House
guys went
Senate.
and actually achieved some change.
And we raised the age to buy a gun to 21 in Florida. And not just that, we passed a red flag law that can disarm people that are a risk to themselves and others. And that law has since been used in Florida alone over 19,000 times.
Wow.
And Michael, guess who uses it most?
Who?
Republican sheriffs.
Right, Republican sheriffs.
And guess who hasn't repealed it? Ron DeSantis, because it has such wide bipartisan support. We cannot buy into this lie that this is such a partisan issue, we can't do anything about it.
And I heard you say somewhere else that a lot of the Republicans that helped pass that still got reelected.
They did.
Because that is ultimately what it comes down to. If they fear, I'm not going to get reelected, but they got reelected.
Exactly.
Some of them are still there.
But that's why it's so important that young people use their voice. And I'm not going to say to them right now that this is going to get solved if you just elect Kamala Harris. Everything's going to be better. It's not going to be. We have been left the results of a 50-year chess game. that conservatives have played here through things like the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation, and so many of these other institutions that Donald Trump is simply a symptom of, and he is only that, a symptom of it. If it wasn't him, it was going to be somebody else. Our generation has to start laying the groundwork now to reverse engineer a lot of that so that we can actually reinstate things like Roe versus Wade, so that we can overturn things like DC versus Heller and Citizens United and all these other insane decisions that the Supreme Court has made.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
Your positivity is very inspiring. For more information, check out leaderswedeserve.com. David Hogg, everybody.